The story opens in 1957 in Chicago. Inside a modest but refined tailor shop, we meet Leonard. He isn't originally American. In fact, he moved to the United States just 2 years ago. Before that, he lived in London, where he worked at one of the finest fashion houses in the city. Leonard wasn't just any ordinary tailor. He had serious experience in high-end craftsmanship, but at some point, he decided to leave London behind and come to Chicago to open his own store. Since then, he's been quietly building his reputation. Leonard has an assistant named Mabel. The people of the city, especially the wealthy ones, know Leonard's work very well. The richest clients come to him for their custom-made suits. Among his regular customers is the Boyle family, the most powerful mafia gang operating in the city. The Boyle family uses Leonard's shop for more than just clothing. Inside the store, they've installed a mailbox. Through this mailbox, they pass messages back and forth between different locations. Leonard knows about it, and he doesn't object. People walk in, drop envelopes into the box, and leave. He simply continues working, minding his business. One day, the youngest son of the Boyle family walks in. His name is Richie Boyle. He's accompanied by his associate, Francis. Leonard doesn't pay much attention to them when they enter. Francis immediately goes to check the mailbox, while Richie casually speaks with Leonard. As Francis checks the boxes, he finds an envelope marked with the symbol of a rival gang, the Outfit. He shows it to Richie. Richie then tells Leonard that he'll need him to step outside for a few minutes. Leonard calmly agrees and waits outside. Richie knows that whatever is inside that envelope is highly confidential, and he doesn't want Leonard overhearing anything. While Leonard is sitting outside, Mabel approaches him. She tells him she has a gift for him. Mabel knows Leonard loves snow globes, especially the kind that contain miniature city landmarks inside. Leonard once dreamed of traveling the world, but eventually he stopped and chose to settle in Chicago with his shop instead. So now he collects snow globes from different cities, almost as a way of experiencing the world from afar. When Mabel gives him the snow globe, she asks him something personal. She wonders why he chose Chicago when he could have gone anywhere in the world. Before Leonard can fully answer, Richie and Francis come out of the shop. The moment they appear, Leonard and Mabel stop talking. The two gang members look at them briefly and then leave with the envelope. Leonard returns to work. Later, while he and Mabel are talking, Leonard mentions a young man who works at a nearby watch shop. He tells Mabel the boy finds her beautiful and likes her. He even says the boy asked Leonard to speak to her on his behalf. Leonard gently asks if she'd consider going on a date with him. Mabel refuses. She says she already likes someone else. Leonard immediately understands who she means. He has often seen Richie and Mabel flirting with each other. He realizes Richie must be the one she's talking about. Leonard becomes serious and tries to warn her. He reminds her what Richie's family does for a living. Richie is dangerous. Violence is part of his daily life. He handles weapons constantly. Men like that don't bring safety. But Mabel isn't afraid. She insists she can handle Richie. Leonard eventually drops the subject. A little later, Mabel asks Leonard if he can increase her salary. She's saving money because she wants to travel the world one day. Leonard says he'll think about it, but she'll have to work harder and improve. He points out that her work isn't always neat. When clothes return from cleaning, she doesn't fold them properly. If she wants more pay, she'll need to be more precise. Mabel agrees and promises to try. As evening arrives, Mabel leaves. Leonard continues working alone in the shop. Later that night, he falls asleep at his work table. He begins to dream. Flashes of his past appear, and he suddenly wakes up. He hears the door opening. Slowly, he walks toward the front. Inside, he sees Richie, and Mabel is there with him. The two often come here at night to spend time together. Leonard watches quietly. Richie doesn't hide anything from Mabel. That night, he starts talking about his family. He tells her about Francis. Francis isn't just an associate. He's technically his adopted brother. Years ago, Francis saved Richie's father's life during an attack. Because of that, Richie's father adopted him. Richie resents this deeply. He doesn't see Francis as a real brother. His father favors Francis more than him. Richie also explains something serious. Francis believes there is a traitor inside their organization. Someone has been leaking information. Recently, their operations have suffered heavy losses. A rival gang called La Fontaine has been targeting them. Richie says his father listens carefully to Francis's suspicions. But Richie doesn't trust Francis at all. Meanwhile, in another room, Leonard overhears everything. Suddenly, Leonard accidentally drops something, making a loud noise. Richie hears it. He and Mabel quickly head toward the sound. Before they enter, Leonard pretends to be asleep at his desk. When Mabel sees him, she whispers that they should leave. She doesn't want him waking up. They leave. Days pass. Richie and Francis return to the shop again to check the mailbox. Inside, they find several letters and another envelope from the outfit. When they open it, they find a cassette tape and a letter. They take it and leave. But later that evening, they come back. And this time, Richie is badly injured. He's been shot in the stomach. Francis quickly calls his father, Roy Boyle, and tells him LaFontaine attacked them. Richie is seriously wounded. Roy says he's coming immediately. Leonard sees Richie's condition worsening and suggests going to the hospital. Francis refuses. If they go to a hospital, it will create more problems. Instead, he orders Leonard to stitch the wound. Leonard is shocked. He insists he's just a tailor. Francis tells him he has no choice if he wants Richie to live. Reluctantly, Leonard agrees. He begins stitching Richie's wound without anesthesia. Richie screams in pain. Eventually, he passes out from it. Leonard continues carefully sewing until the bleeding finally stops. Afterward, they move outside the room. Francis opens a briefcase and takes out the same cassette tape. Leonard approaches, but Francis tells him to stay with Richie while he goes out to get a cassette player. Leonard doesn't understand. Francis explains everything. Someone in their family was wiretapped. The recording contains proof that a member of their organization has been speaking to the FBI. They were about to listen to the tape earlier, but rival gangs attacked them. Now, everyone wants that tape because it can destroy the Boyle family. Francis needs to play it to discover who the traitor is. He leaves to get a player. Leonard remains behind with Richie. After some time, Richie wakes up. He's feeling slightly better. Leonard calmly tells him everything he knows, that someone in their family is leaking information, and Francis went to get a cassette player. Leonard asks Richie if he suspects anyone. He suggests something carefully. The traitor must be someone close, someone who knows everything, but maybe not blood, maybe an outsider. He subtly points toward Francis. Richie starts thinking. Then Leonard suddenly says something shocking. He tells Richie that he himself is the spy. Richie stares at him and then laughs. He says Leonard is just a simple tailor. He works all day with fabric. Leonard calmly corrects him. He says he wasn't just a tailor, he was a cutter. And there's a difference. Cutting and sewing require different minds, different thinking. He spent his life as a cutter at the finest fashion houses in London until he was skilled enough to open his own shop. He asks Richie again, who could the traitor be? And this is where things start getting even more dangerous. So Richie is now seriously thinking about what Leonard just suggested. The idea that the traitor must be someone extremely close to the family starts settling in. Leonard carefully continues guiding the thought without forcing it. He says that if someone had access to all internal discussions, if someone knew the movements and plans, that person would have to be near Roy at all times. And when Leonard thinks about it, the one person who always seems close enough is Francis. He tells Richie that every time he watches Francis, it feels like Francis doesn't truly like him. That kind of resentment could mean something. And if anyone had the proximity and knowledge required to leak information, it would be him. Richie starts agreeing. The suspicion begins forming clearly in his mind. At that exact moment, Francis returns. Leonard walks toward the door to let him in. But before Francis enters fully, Leonard steps outside and quietly tells him something alarming. He says Richie suspects him. After Francis left, Richie opened the briefcase. He thinks Francis might be the spy. Leonard warns him to be careful. Things inside are tense. Immediately we understand Leonard is playing a game here. He's planting doubt in both directions. Francis walks inside. Richie is staring at him. There's silence between them for a moment. Then Richie finally speaks. He says something that's been bothering him. When they were attacked earlier, both of them were there. Richie got shot multiple times, but somehow Francis wasn't hit once. Why? Francis pauses. Then he calmly says, "It was luck, nothing more." He reaches for the briefcase to take the cassette, but Richie stops him. He says the tape isn't going anywhere until their father arrives. They'll wait together? Francis doesn't agree. He tries to grab it anyway. That's when things explode. The two start fighting. It's aggressive and personal. During the struggle, the briefcase falls to the floor and bursts open. It's empty. The cassette is gone. Now the suspicion turns into open hostility. Richie believes Francis took it. Francis believes Richie has it hidden. Both pull out guns. Richie fires first, but he misses. Francis doesn't. He shoots Richie straight in the throat. Richie collapses. He dies right there. Leonard stands frozen. He just witnessed Richie's death. Then the doorbell rings. Francis immediately understands. Roy has arrived. He panics. He tells Leonard they must hide Richie's body immediately. If Roy sees his son dead, neither of them will survive. Leonard must stall Roy at the door while Francis cleans up the blood. Leonard does exactly that. He hides the body and goes to greet Roy. Meanwhile, Francis frantically wipes away the blood. By the time Roy enters, the room is clean. Roy looks around and asks one question. Where is Richie? Francis tells him Richie took the cassette and left. He says he tried stopping him, but Richie wouldn't listen. Roy turns to Francis and gives him an order. Go find my son, bring him back, and bring that cassette back too. Francis leaves again. Now it's just Roy and Leonard inside the shop. As they sit, Roy begins talking about the bigger situation. He explains that the largest criminal organization in the world is the Outfit. Their influence spreads across Europe and America. There's almost no country where they don't operate. They approached Roy because the Boyle family controls Chicago. They wanted to work together. Roy agreed. But then the Outfit discovered there was a spy inside Roy's organization, someone feeding information to the FBI. That's why they sent the cassette. Once played, it would reveal the traitor. That tape is extremely important. Leonard listens carefully. Then he asks Roy something honest. Why are you telling me all this? You've never discussed your operations with me before. Roy calmly responds. Because Richie's coat is still here, and Richie never goes anywhere without his coat. Which means Leonard is hiding something. Roy pulls out his gun and points it directly at Leonard. He demands the truth. Where is my son? Leonard is cornered. At that exact moment, Francis returns. But this time, he's holding Mabel at gunpoint. Now Leonard understands something very important. If he tells the truth about Richie being dead, Francis might kill Mabel instantly. So, Leonard starts lying. He tells Roy that Francis and Richie had gone together earlier to confront LaFontaine's men. Francis killed 4 of them. Richie didn't kill anyone. Richie was embarrassed and desperate to prove himself, so he left again to show he was capable. Roy listens carefully. Then he asks Leonard, "Why didn't you tell me this earlier?" Leonard says Richie threatened him. If Leonard told Roy anything, Richie would kill him. Roy seems to accept this explanation. Then he asks Francis why he's pointing a gun at Mabel. Francis explains that Mabel is Richie's girlfriend. After leaving, Francis went to her house thinking Richie might be there. He didn't find Richie, but he did see bloodstains on the carpet. He believes Mabel knows something. They turn their guns toward her. Mabel insists she doesn't know anything. They begin forcing her, pressuring her aggressively. Leonard steps forward to intervene, but Roy orders him to stay out of it. At that moment, Leonard starts remembering flashes of his past. We learn something crucial. Leonard once had a wife and a daughter. They're both dead. Mabel reminds him of his daughter. He cannot let her die. Just then, the phone rings. Leonard answers. After hanging up, he lies again. He tells Roy that Richie just called. LaFontaine's men are chasing him. He's hiding in a house on 31st Street and needs help immediately. Roy quickly gathers his men and prepares to leave, but Francis stops him. Francis says he'll stay behind. He wants to keep an eye on Leonard and Mabel. If they're lying, there could be trouble. They might even go to the police. Roy leaves with his men. The shop becomes quiet again. Then Leonard calmly reveals something shocking to Francis. He says he lied about the phone call. He deliberately sent Roy to 31st Street because LaFontaine's gang is there. Roy and his men will not survive. Then Leonard reveals something even bigger. The spy inside the Boyle family isn't Francis, it's Mabel. Richie told her everything, And she passed information to La Fontaine in exchange for money. She wanted enough money to travel the world, but eventually, she realized the Boyle family would discover the truth. So she contacted the FBI. Her plan was to destroy the entire Boyle organization in one move. Leonard says he knew this for a long time, but he never stood in her way. Then he pulls out the missing cassette. He had hidden it. He reveals he made a deal with La Fontaine. In exchange for the tape, they would pay enough money for Mabel to travel the world. Francis listens and says their plan is clever. He says when La Fontaine arrives, just signal him, and he'll kill them. Leonard and Mabel agree. Soon, La Fontaine's men arrive. Leonard hands over the cassette and receives the money. But instead of signaling Francis properly, Leonard subtly reveals that Francis is hiding inside. La Fontaine's men storm in. They shoot Francis, then they leave. Now it's just Leonard and Mabel sitting together, and the truth isn't done yet. So now the shop is quiet again. Francis has just been shot by La Fontaine's men. They came in, eliminated him, and left with what they believe is the real cassette. Leonard and Mabel are now sitting together inside the shop, surrounded by the aftermath of everything that just happened. Leonard turns to Mabel and calmly tells her something she never expected to hear. He says she doesn't actually know who sent that cassette in the first place. It wasn't the outfit. It was him. Leonard admits that he was the one who placed the cassette in the mailbox under the outfit's name. He created the entire setup. The tape that La Fontaine just took, it's fake. It only contains Leonard's own voice recording. The real cassette is still in his possession. He then pulls out the real tape. He tells Mabel that she can take this one to the FBI. Once she hands it over, the authorities will arrest whoever is left from the Boyle family, and La Fontaine's group as well. He also gives her all the money from the deal. He tells her that now she can finally live her dream. She can travel the world like she always wanted. Mabel takes the cassette, she takes the money, and she leaves the shop. Leonard is now alone. He begins pouring oil throughout the store. His plan is clear. He's going to burn the entire place down. All evidence will disappear. Everything that happened here tonight will turn to ash. But just as he's about to light the fire, Francis stands up. He's not dead. He shoots Leonard. The bullet hits Leonard in the shoulder. Leonard doesn't collapse. He slowly turns and faces Francis. And now, for the first time, the final truth comes out. Leonard tells Francis that he has no idea who he's really dealing with. As Leonard speaks, we notice the tattoos on his hands, and suddenly everything makes sense. Leonard wasn't just some quiet English tailor who moved to Chicago for a peaceful life. He used to be a gangster, a serious one, a man who killed without hesitation. Years ago, he left that life. He moved to London and tried to build something clean. He started working in high-end fashion houses. He met a woman. He got married. He had a daughter. He tried to live normally. But his former boss found out he had walked away from the criminal world, and in retaliation, his wife and daughter were murdered. Leonard never wanted to return to violence. His wife had once told him to leave that life behind. That's why he came to Chicago, to start over, to live quietly, to build something honest. But tonight, that peaceful version of him is gone. If he wants a true, fresh start, Francis has to die. Francis tries to fight him, despite his injuries. But Leonard is experienced, calm, efficient. This is not new territory for him. They struggle, and Leonard kills Francis. No hesitation this time. After that, Leonard walks out of the shop. As he leaves, he sets the place on fire. The entire store begins to burn. All the blood, all the evidence, all the secrets, gone, and that's where the story ends.